Hey everybody, what's going on? Happy New Year. A belated Happy New Year, I guess you can say. It's been the new year for a little while here. Andy Campbell here with Jimmy O'Malley, and we're your Rinkcast co-hosts tonight. Sean Fitzgerald is watching his beloved Notre Dame Fighting Irish take on Penn State right now. And if you're not a football fan, or if you just want to talk some Blackhawks hockey, welcome. Good to see you, Jimmy. What's going on, man? How are you? Happy New Year.
We're doing all right. Happy New Year to you.
Excellent.
Exciting news.
Exciting news. What do you got?
Not much, man. Exciting news about Rockford playing well. I wrote an article a couple days ago.
Awesome. Yeah,
they're on a little bit of hot streak. I think 5-3-1 in their last 9 games.
Love it. Wow, that is a hot streak. So, folks, if you haven't been paying attention to Rockford, pay attention to Jimmy O'Malley's articles, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Rock Vegas as we move along tonight. Anyway, Blackhawks won last night. They beat the Colorado Avalanche. It's the second time they've beaten Colorado on home ice in the last 2 seasons, despite being outplayed, they're going to be outplayed most games, if not all games this year. And Peter Mrazek had a big night. Connor Bedard with 2 points, an unbelievable goal. Frankie Nazar with his first goal of the season. Outstanding, which is great. And Colton Dock with his first NHL point. So the kids with a big night, which is great. And on that subject of some of the kids, it seems like one of the kids, or the main kid on the block, Connor Bedard, has been getting a lot of criticism of late, it seems like. And it's not warranted if you follow him statistically. So a lot of things are going on. A lot of people are saying, there are always meatballs out there. Oh, he's a bust. We thought he'd be better by now. There's some that are saying, there's habits in his game that aren't great. And what do we do about that? Jeremy Roenick had some wild sentiments on Bedard, I guess you could say, and him not saying hi to him at the Winter Classic. Roenick's feelings were obviously hurt. Jeremy Roenick has always been very sensitive. That was the most bizarre thing ever. But Jimmy, why are people down on Bedard these days? And this is a guy who's on an 8-game point streak, and he's 19 years old. What is this all about?
Honestly, I have no idea. I think people are just bored. I think they're bored. They don't like losing, and I get it. Losing stinks. Not being a good team stinks.
Yep.
And, they just lash out the first thing they can see, and it's probably just Bedard. And it's, first thing they see when they see they think of the Blackhawks. But when it comes to guys like Jeremy Roenick and other people on Twitter talking about not wanting him to have been picked by the Blackhawks in such an absurd statement that I honestly can't wrap my head around.
So dumb. I also think part of it is Macklin Celebrini is on a tear. He's had an awesome rookie season. I mean, he's been incredible. He's pretty much a point per game. I think Macklin Celebrini is better than what a lot of people thought maybe he was going to be. But this is who Bedard was as an explosive player last year as a rookie. I mean, he was up until, he got injured and then he got back. But the other thing right now, too, is outside of last night, Bedard hasn't been wowing with a whole lot of goals. He's on the ice and he's getting a lot of points and he's getting a lot of assists. Some of them are secondary assists. He's getting on the stat sheet, but it's not in a way where he's taking over games. And I think people were kind of hoping that, well, he'll just be dominating games at this point. He doesn't have the resources to do it. And there's a tweet, Jimmy, I think you pass it along. His most consistent line mates over the last 3 years, who were those 3?
Gosh,
in order of time playing with them.
I think it was like Kurashev was 1. I think Foligno was in the top 3.
Yeah, and then it was Donato was the other.
I think, it was Donato, who ranged from meh to bad.
Right. I mean, Philip Kurashev, we're talking about a guy whose NHL career might be over. Yeah. I mean, if he's not cracking a lineup spot with these Blackhawks right now, he's got 5 points this year. He's minus 27, which is the worst plus minus of anyone who's played 30 games this year.
Yeah.
Ryan Donato and Nick Foligno on competitive teams right now might be fighting for a roster spot, a lineup spot. It's possible. Or a fourth line at best. So, I mean, it's, he hasn't had complementary players really where it could work out. Are those kids coming? Sure. But are they not here right now? They're not. And the other thing too, is that like, everyone's like, he's on an 8-game point streak and he's kind of doing it quietly. But when you're contributing on the score sheet that way, are you figuring out the game? Are you finding ways to contribute without having to be the flash and dash, like explosive player? I don't know.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because you look at it, how he played against Colorado, and the stats are right in front of me. He had a goal. He could have had 2 more.
Yeah, he went to the net hard.
He went to the net hard. He had an assist. He was +2. He was 8 of 13 on faceoffs. A guy who has been lambasted for having probably one of the worst faceoff percentages in the league had a positive faceoff percentage against really good Colorado Avalanche centers. I mean, it was his most complete game. So to say it plainly, his game is rounding, and it's not going to show up all the time in assists and goals because he's dragging along talent against teams' best lines, and there's no way to beat around the bush there. He's just waiting for other people to get to him, other better players like Nazar, and Doc, and whoever probably is going to be the first-round pick this year. I mean, there's a ton of people that this franchise is waiting on. You can't look at 0.9 points per game at this rate in his career, which is fantastic for a guy like Connor Bedard and any rookie at 19 years old. You can't look at that and say you're not impressed.
I mean, he's gonna be a 70+ point player this year, playing on the worst team in the NHL as a 19-year-old. I mean, I don't know what else people want really. Are there aspects of his game that I'm sure he needs to improve on? Yeah, of course there are. His in zone play, he's getting better at. He still needs to stop on more pucks. There's certainly things about his game, but I mean, this whole he's a bust and we wish we had Celebrini, comparing Celebrini and Bedard right now and saying one is better than the other right now is awfully premature and just kind of silly when you think about it. So
yeah, I think people, again, I just think people are bored. People go on Twitter, have too much time in their hands.
Yeah.
And they just talk and they just spray things out. I mean,
holidays are over. The team stinks. Yeah. Like what else is there to do? Yeah,
exactly.
So anyway, Connor Bedard, fantastic hockey player, 8-game point streak. Hopefully he can keep it going through the weekend. It'd be pretty cool if he could keep this running into double digits. That would be really fun.
Yeah, so, I think I saw a stat since the coaching change. I think he's had 18 points in 15 games. I mean,
that's
ridiculous. Good. He's good. There's no reason to, shoo off his performance just because he's not lighting the lamp as often as people want.
Yeah, that's just silliness. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So people will come around. Reinforcements will come at some point, and who knows when, but they'll be there soon. But speaking of some of the kids, let's talk about 2 of the kids who had big nights last night. A lot of people were saying, play the kids now. And you got 2 guys that, saw a lot of time up until December, and Colton Dach up until after the new year in Rockford, marinating, playing for Sorensen, who are playing really good hockey right now. And that's Frankie Nazar and Colton Dach. Jimmy, talk about these 2 guys, because you've been paying more attention to them than anyone else. Nazar now 12 games in, I think, into the NHL season, got his first goal of the season last night. He's better every outing. Mm-hmm. And Dach has brought an element that the Hawks have really, really needed from a young personality. But you've been watching these guys because of your Rockford coverage. Are you surprised? Do you see growth? What can we expect next?
I think if you look at any of these players, they are almost 9 days different than who they were in October, especially Dach. Dach had a pretty slow start, but he really started lighting up the score sheet, especially when Nazar left. I think the big concern was when Nazar left, everyone thought his line mates would suffer, but Dach continued to really light up the box sheet. And I think that's why it warranted a call-up. And you see the game he plays, and he's played that very well in the AHL. In fact, when I got an opportunity to talk to him in the post-game press conference after the teddy bear toss, I asked him about his play and how he's maintained a disciplined look when other teams get chippy. And he's mature beyond his years. He just talks about how this is a game that you play between the whistles. Veteran teams understand that you can get goaded into bad penalties after the whistles, and you gotta keep your head on straight. And that's what Dach has done this year. I mean, he's only played this is just his
He's played 3 games.
Third NHL game, and you can tell he gets it. He gets his role. He's physical. He's fast. He gets in front of the net. He creates rebounds, and that's what he did for Nazar, and he got his first NHL point because of it. And Nazar, I mean, we saw it in the AHL. He just got named an AHL All-Star. Rockford's only representative so far. He'll probably be replaced unless he gets sent back down. And we're starting to see that confidence come in. He's starting to understand the center position at the NHL level the way he did in the AHL level. He's starting to understand his role in all 3 zones.
Yeah.
It was weird at first, admittedly. It was a little weird at first. Even I was a little skeptical. Even I was kind of calling like, maybe after 7-8 games, maybe he should go back to the AHL and start cooking there.
Yeah, but I was thinking similarly on that whole deal. But
yeah, but he settled in. He's figured out his role. He works really well on that third line center role. And I was a little concerned because I was like, oh, he could be second line. I don't know if he wants to play with like the scrappy line on the other team, but he fits. Right. He does what you ask of him, and you're hoping that he moves up to the second line or maybe even first line if he moves to the wing as years goes on. But he's comfortable, and it's very clear as each game goes on, he's finding his role. He's finding where to go on the ice, and he was rewarded with a good goal against Colorado on a rebound created by Colton Dock.
Yeah, it was a great play. The other thing too is we still haven't. The first unit power play is the unit that's out there for almost 2 minutes every time they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
With Bedard and Seth Jones and Bertuzzi and company. And I'm hoping we see a little bit more of Nazar in a power play setting. He's on that second group. We just don't see it because usually they get 30 seconds tops. Mm-hmm. And then the Blackhawks, I mean, they don't get very many power plays. They just don't in general. I think they have the least amount of power plays in the league. I think someone was saying the other night. Now, to that end, let's go back to Doc for a second, though. But this is who Doc was in training camp, and we were talking about that in preseason. He came back with a different attitude and with a chip on his shoulder, and that wanting to be physical, that wanting to assert himself and throw his weight around a little bit. His hands are really good and tight, as we saw from of those earlier games. And so, at some point, I have a feeling Doc might go back down. But again, it almost seems like someone might need to get hurt for that to happen right now. I mean, I don't know who plays ahead of him, unless he drastically just starts, coming back down to earth and struggling somehow. But
yeah, because I mean, I'd much rather see him in his current position than Kurashev. I mean, he's far better already than Kurashev is.
I don't know what you do with Kurashev at this point.
Yeah.
And then Frank Nazar. I mean, yeah, maybe like you said, maybe they'll go down at some point, or during the Four Nations, do they go down and skate a little bit more in Rockford? But I don't know. I mean, these guys look pretty good. I don't want to say they're never going back to the AHL. No one should make that statement.
No, I think it's more than likely if Rockford's in a playoff position, they're going to send him down for the playoffs.
Yes.
They definitely want him to, these guys to get
go win
experience.
Well, and the Rockford's got a chance to make a pretty good run too. So
yeah, I mean, they, like I've mentioned opening the show, they've played very consistently even without Nazar and Doc. That's next guy up in that lineup over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit more about Rockford while we're on the topic. Let's talk about the Hogs. Who are some of the other guys that you're noticing? You said they've been going on a little bit of a streak. Are there any other call-ups that are possible? Ethan Del Mastro maybe at some point. Probably not on the forward side, or maybe. But where are we with Rockford? How does Levshinov look these days? Let's have a brief Rockford update if we could.
Well, I'll start with Levshinov because I'm sure he's the hot topic of all Blackhawks fans when it comes to Chicago Blackhawks prospects. He's a completely different player than he was way back in November. He's still making mistakes. It's very much 2 step forward, 1 step back, but he's very much making progress in his game. He sees the ice well. The problem is, I feel like he still has the same issues he had when I had mentioned his issues a few months ago. He plays hero ball. There was a play yesterday where he basically took the puck from the defensive zone all the way through the neutral zone, and he cut through the ice really well.
Yeah.
But he gets to the offensive zone, he gets pinched, and instead of putting it deep, he put it to the middle of the ice. And you look at that and go, oh, you can't do that. You gotta put the puck in deep. You can't, you You can't put it in the middle of the
Can't
ice
play
when
around with it that
you
much.
can't
Yeah.
play around with it. You just got to. But
Keep it
I
simple.
think my favorite thing about Levshinov's game, and it really stands out to me. This kid has the opposite shot of Seth Jones. Seth Jones, he's trying to
So
slap.
he doesn't shoot high and wide
He, no,
all the
like,
time.
Seth Jones will just slap the ball. I mean, slap the puck as hard as he can.
Yeah.
Hopefully, trying to make it to the net. Sometimes, most of the time, just sending it high and wide.
Yeah.
Levshinov has a completely different approach. He leads at the time of my article. He led the all AHL defensemen, not just rookie defensemen, all AHL defensemen, with shots at 77. And his shot is simple. He doesn't wind up. He's a simple wrist shot guy. His favorite thing to do is to create rebounds, and he does. He shoots it from the corner. He creates a shot that basically knuckles on the opponent's goaltender, and he can't glove it, can't bring it in. And it creates a rebound that at times, teammates like Mayhew, I believe it was the game against Milwaukee back in December, Mayhew was able to convert on that. Other times, players get close. Like yesterday, I believe it was.
Yeah, he's looking for sticks. Yeah.
He's looking for sticks. He's looking to hit the goaltender and have it bounce around.
And that's right. That's the difference with Seth Jones, who's always looking, or a lot of defensemen, they're looking to score from the blue line, which you just can't do that often.
No. And I think Levshinov, especially in the offensive zone, he just gets that. He just gets that role of like, I'm going to get this and to the net. Maybe it'll sneak by. At worst, it'll stay in front of the net, and I'll create something for my teammates. And he does. And eventually, these shots are going to start going in. He has a pretty paltry 2.6 shooting percentage.
Nice.
Which is really rough for any player.
Yeah.
But it's this philosophy with his shot. I'm creating a rebound with this shot. I'm if it goes in, great. But my main focus is to set up the guys up front. Now, I got to talk about the rest of his game. Still a lot of development. We're not going to see him this year in the NHL. I'd be 100% shocked if we saw him next year. He's not going to be called up.
You don't think we'll see any April cup of coffee, couple games, nothing?
No, okay. I would be shocked. This kid, especially in the defensive zone, he has a lot to learn. They trust him on the PK. So
good. He's got to learn that spot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's learning the PK position. He's learning he's big. He is learning that he is big and he can push people around.
Yeah.
And he's starting to understand that, but I think he's going to need the rest of the AHL season to understand that, and maybe even next year.
Totally fair. That's totally fair. Well, and he hasn't even done a training camp yet.
No, I mean, he's coming off a broken foot.
Hurt. Yeah, so I mean, we don't even know what he would look like going up against anyone that's not an AHL hockey player.
So
I don't even have that frame of reference. So,
and like I've said, and we've all said on this pod, I mean, defensemen, they just take more time to develop, and I think Levshinov may need 2 full years.
Takes a lot of time. Okay, love it. Good take. Let's stay with the current Hawks. I do want to talk about Dave Carle, the World Juniors, and I do want to talk about the idea at some point tonight, close the show maybe with David Carle, and some thoughts around that. I want to talk about the Scott Powers article around what will happen with the Hawks as the winter moves along, trade deadline, re-signings, etc. Let's talk about some of the signings that Scott Powers was talking about. It sounds like we can expect a handful of NCAA prospects are going to sign with the Blackhawks. One being Ryan Green Jr. at Boston University. That makes total sense. Mm-hmm. There was thought last year that he might sign after his sophomore season, after his second consecutive Frozen Four run. Hopefully, BU can go on a big run so he can go out on a great note there. He will be signing probably in Rockford right away. And then he made reference to Oliver Moore. Oliver Moore, maybe after, he just won his second gold medal, World Junior Tournament, sophomore at University of Minnesota. Will complete his sophomore year, and then they expect him to sign. And they're expecting Sam Rinzel to sign, who I believe up until last weekend was leading the nation in NCAA in scoring amongst defensemen. Big 6'4" defenseman, terrific hockey player. That was the one that I read and I was a little bit surprised about. I thought maybe he would go back for a junior year, but if he's in the system and they sign him, that's great. So there are some players coming along. What's the Denver kid's name again? I'm forgetting his name.
Aiden Thompson.
Aiden Thompson. So he'll probably sign. I mean, he's older. I think he's already 22. He'll sign too. So there will be some NCAA signings coming out of the spring. Other than that, let's talk about trade deadline. Taylor Hall's name is going to always come up at the trade deadline. Is he on the move? What can they get for him if he is?
Well, Scotty Powers said they'd be lucky to get a second, more than likely a third. I'd love to see him get a second. I mean, in my hot takes before the season, I said he'd warrant them a first-round pick.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's a little bit of wishful thinking.
Hey, people get desperate and players get hot. He could get hot. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I would say if he's around the 12 to 15 goal mark by February, maybe people are looking at him a little differently.
What is he at right now?
I think he's at 8 or 9. He's somewhere in that area.
Yeah, 8 goals, 13 dimes. So not bad. I mean, he would need to go on a tear to fetch even a second round.
Yeah, he definitely need to be comfortably in the double digits of goals for teams to consider. But yeah, I think he's the most likely of all forwards to be traded. I mean, 1 year left on his deal, $6 million left. I know he expressed interest in wishing to return to Chicago, and I get that.
Well,
but
I mean, he could come back cheap. I mean, I don't know. At this point in his career, though, I if I'm him, I want a cup chase if I can. I would ask to be traded. I'm not him, so I don't know like if that's even on his mind or if he wants to be dealt again. Because sure, when you're always on the move, that can get annoying after a while. But I guess the question is that if you pass, if all you can get for him is a third round pick, is it even worth it? Or is it something where there's the possibility where you start to look at options for Hall and maybe others to say, who can we get back? Is there anyone we can get back for this that's an NHL player as opposed to just stockpiling picks? Because the Hawks have picks and they have had picks. And it's kind of one of those, are they really going to go through a huge fire sale at the trade deadline and just try to restock late picks? Like, I mean, if you're going to trade Ryan Donato, I would not trade Ryan Donato at this point. I would bring Donato back and give him a 2-year contract for $2.5 million a year or something along that fabric and just say, hey, he'll be a great player for where the team is right now. Sean's here. Hi, Sean. You're talking about the trade deadline. Don't be sad, Sean. Sean's a little on edge because Penn State is shoving it right now.
Yeah, they are shoving it. Yes.
Absolutely shoving it. But we're talking about, do you bring back Ryan Donato? Do you trade Ryan Donato? We just went through Taylor Hall. The thing about Donato, I mean, what are you going to get for Donato? Fifth round pick? You're not going to get an NHL player. Is anyone even going to want Donato?
No. I think he has value as a bottom 6 scorer. He hasn't really scored much lately, but I think he has value in that regard. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. At what point do picks like there's so many they have?
Yeah, we just touched on that. Like what?
And so I think if you're not going to get an NHL caliber player or anything above the 4th round, the 3rd round or better, I think you keep them.
Yeah,
and maybe you re-sign them because you're going to need.
That's what we just said. You're going to need someone there. I mean, he could be, even if you trade pieces or you find better NHL. Well, you have to. They need better NHL players next year.
Right. Yeah.
We can't go through this again for a 3rd year in a row.
No, they can't. They've got to.
They need to be creative and make some moves and spend some money and sign a UFA. And if that means overpaying, that's fine.
Right.
But you do need bottom 6 forwards.
Yep.
And Donato could do that on this team for another 2 years.
Definitely.
That's fine. So I would not want a 4th or 5th round pick over a new contract for Ryan Donato.
No, I agree with you on that one.
I wouldn't want it.
Yeah. And I mean, what I like about Donato's game, it's so flexible. You can put him in the first line. You can put him on the 4th. You can ask him to do what you need him to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think he's the perfect jack of all trades, master of none kind of forward that you need on a rebuilding team where it's like, okay, I just need you somewhere.
Yeah, he's been great.
And he really has. He fits where he ever
for this team, he's been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's
and that's why like I'm not too worried about keeping Hall because I feel like Hall is just he's a guy who needs top 6 minutes to get the points.
Yeah.
And another thing about the Scott Powers article that I'm sure you're about to bring up.
Yeah.
A lot of these trades, I look at these trades, even if you're not getting the best return, I still would like to make a couple because I want to make room for guys. I want to make it seems like the Blackhawks want to make room for guys to stay up permanently at the end of the season after the deadline. Maybe it's Doc, maybe it's Slags, maybe it's Del Mastro. Maybe it's guys that just they want to extend a look after the deadline and they don't want them to feel like they're coming up just to sit in the press box.
Yeah, you're right. At some point, you need to make room for the kids you've been grooming.
Yeah,
and
that sounded terrible. The kids you've been developing. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant, folks. Jeez.
Yeah, and the kids that you've been
just talking about Penn State earlier.
Oh,
sorry. Whoa.
The kids you've been
anyway.
You don't bring them up to sit. Like that's the
No, absolutely not. No, you bring them up to play them.
Yeah,
and that's the idea. Now, the name I do want to talk about is Seth Jones, and I if the conversation has not happened yet, and it may have, I don't know the timing of these things when GMs decide to have these conversations. It is time for Kyle Davidson to ask Seth Jones, "Do you want to see this through or not?"
I think
everything about Seth Jones and his body language looks like he doesn't want to be around. This is not what he signed for. When he signed, he thought Stan Bowman was turning this thing around. It wasn't going to be a reset. Bowman was fired. Then Gates showed up on the podcast.
Whoa.
I just heard you talking about grooming or something. And I don't know. I got to get on there and straighten these guys out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Our co-founder needed to call an audible in here and be like,
he wanted to get sponsored by Manscaped again, is what he was calling it.
That'd be fine. I mean, those are really good products for men of any age. At any rate, let's go right to Gate on this one. Gate, we're starting to talk about Seth Jones and the thought of if the conversation has not happened, it should happen soon. Where Kyle Davidson should ask him, "What do you want? Like, do you want us to try to move you? Because if you don't want to be here, which it doesn't seem like he does, then it's at least trying to make these phone calls right now." The 9.5 over the next 3 years for a player like Seth Jones is not the albatross that it was when he first signed with the cap that is going to be going up, and also the need for his position. There are a lot of people that would like a Seth Jones. We bag him I bag him. I get really annoyed with him.
Ray's not a big fan either.
No, he tries.
Not a big fan. That's an understatement of the year.
I mean, he wants to win and he tries to do too much. But I think if he was in a top 4 setting where he was not in the top pair, and had a good role. I mean, a team like Vancouver, who might be shopping JP Miller, they might be shopping Elias Peterson, would love if they called about Seth Jones. They need a defenseman badly. But Gate, is it too early to start talking about trading Seth Jones, or are we nearing that point?
It's never too early.
I don't think Davidson he's untradeable, is what I'm saying.
Like weekly. They should be having weekly meetings. Like, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready this time? Are you ready this time? Because you got to try to unload that if you can. If there is ever an opportunity to unload him, you do it.
Yeah.
Like, just get him out of here. Like, he's been here long enough. You could see, like, he just goes out there like he has no will. Like, he's just going through the motions. He's just collecting a paycheck kind of thing. He doesn't look engaged. He doesn't look like he's excited to be out there. He just looks bored being here. So sure. Yeah. If you can get that salary off the books and, move some people around, open some spots for some people. Sure. Do it.
Yeah. We talk about how, you trade Taylor Hall, 2nd round pick at best. You trade Donato 4th or 5th round. You trade Seth Jones, you're going to get a return if you do it the right way. Like, you will get a return that is not draft picks. You could get NHL players that would fit the profile of what they're looking for now.
Yeah, you're going to have to retain, but yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean,
or you take the equivalent to $9.5 million worth back of players for
sure.
You could take
like
guys, or you could take a collection of guys back for his contract.
Yeah, but unlike a Donato, unlike a Hall, unlike anyone else they could trade, it doesn't seem like you're giving a guy away. I mean,
Yeah.
this sounds like I think Donato you'd be giving away if you get a 4th or 5th round pick, a guy because a 4th or 5th round pick, you never know. Everyone's like, oh, what about Andrew Shaw? But those guys, 4th or 5th round picks normally don't hit.
Yeah.
Unless you get really, really lucky. But any other tradables that we haven't talked about? We talked about Hall, Jones, Donato.
I think a name, and this could come as a shock, but with recent development of what could be his replacement and a guy coming off injury, he has another year on his contract, but I wonder if there's any market for Peter Mrazek.
I just thinking thing.
I know Brossois has not played once this year, and
you just don't know anything about that guy.
Yeah,
I forgot. It's funny you bring that up because I forgot he was even on the team because of the fact that he just has been a nothing. No one, you don't even hear about him anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't. If you don't, can you roll with Soderblom into next year? I mean, you'd have to sign another goalie in the offseason.
Yeah, because
you can't. I don't know. We don't know about Brossois.
Well, and Brossois, if he comes back, I think Soderblom he won't be waiver eligible anymore. Or he'll be waiver eligible. So like he has to pass through waivers. So once he comes back, they're going to have to roll with 3 goalies.
Yeah.
And I believe Powers alluded to, or maybe it was Ben Pope in an article recently alluded to, they're going to have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that decision is Mrazek.
Yeah.
To move him? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 2 years left on his deal. Well, a year after this year in his deal.
Yeah. Who needs a goalie right now? Who out there is in the market?
Well, but also who needs a goalie that works well in a tandem system? Because Mrazek excels when he plays like 40 to 50 games a season. Any more than that, and I think you're stretching him too thin, especially considering his like limited health. Last year he was relatively healthy. This year he's been hurt a little bit. Before last year, he hadn't been healthy in a long time. So,
did he have any clause when they extended him? Does he have any sort of clause?
Let me look it up.
No trade or no movement. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll look it up. I'm looking on Puckpedia.
By the way, for anyone, Notre Dame quarterback just got hurt. He's out of the game. So,
okay,
yeah, just bad all around.
Hockey show.
Yeah.
No, that's no good. Well, at any rate, yeah, we don't wish injury on anyone. Oh, there's a fumble, and Penn State's got it.
Thanks.
Sorry, Sean.
It's all right. It had to come to an end at some point.
Oh, who knows? I don't know. Anyway, at any rate, okay, so Mrazek, I mean, that'd be great. If they can make a splash and move him, I don't know. A splash would be great of any sort, just to shake it.
Something. Got to shake it.
I do. I'm not expecting it, though. I think there's just going to be more action around the draft with this Hawks team and trying to make moves. And yeah. Oh, maybe Notre Dame got the ball back. Sorry. And anyway, all right. So we just did trade deadline. Now, one of the things we wanted to talk about, and I want to talk about David Carle a little bit. Now, David Carle, of course, his name is, folks, if you've been following anything that we've been doing or any podcast that we've had, we have mentioned David Carle's name well in advance of his second gold medal. Yes, I am going to say that. Oh, we've been saying it all along because we kind of have been. David Carle just won a second gold medal, and it was announced today that he will not be coaching the World Junior team next year. And so everyone's going, oh my gosh, it's happening. He's going to the NHL. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. He did say in an interview the other day with John Butchergrass, he said, I have young kids and they really want me home for Christmas one of these years. And they're, bugged about it. But is he going to make the jump to the NHL? Gate, is this happening? And are the Blackhawks the kind of team that this would fit perfectly?
Well, you'd think in theory he would fit because of the kids and all that stuff. But I was listening to Puck Soup podcast, and Ryan Lambert is really big on college hockey. He's really tuned in to the college hockey thing. And his whole thing is like David Carle has been coaching at Denver for like 15 years. 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, he's been on
He's
the
been
staff
there.
for a
This
long
is
time.
his thing. His family's there, like everything, all that stuff. And he makes pretty good money, and he basically calls his own shots and does whatever he wants to do. So, you know, a first-time head coach, and I'm paraphrasing what Ryan was saying. So this is nothing coming from me, but he brought up a good point, which is why I want to repeat it. You know, what's he going to do? Is he going to come to the NHL and make $200,000 more and play with a team like the Blackhawks, who's rebuilding?
Yeah.
You're going to lose a lot of games. You know, there could, you know, if you don't get out, if you could turn into the next Luke Richardson.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, he's a first-time head coach, so he's not going to get a lot of money. You're going to want to uproot your family from where they've been for the last almost 20 years.
Yeah.
When you could basically write your own check. You're basically the king of, you know, Denver. And you know, if you wanted to, you could still coach the World Junior team whenever you want. You know, it doesn't sound like a bad situation.
No.
But you know, that on the other hand, he may want that challenge. So
yeah,
know,
I don't know.
It could go either way. But it definitely did send me in the direction of maybe he wouldn't, you know, maybe he's not the kind of guy who wants to just jump right into a sketchy situation where you could fail very easily.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're not guaranteed anything.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of examples of college coaches across a myriad of sports who have had opportunities and they're like, no. I mean, like Tom Izzo, the head basketball coach at Michigan State, never left for the NBA. And he just said, this is what I do. This is the age group I work with. Nick Saban had a cup of coffee, you know, obviously with the Dolphins, and then was like, no, this is not my thing. I mean, I don't know if it ain't, to your point, if it ain't broke, you know, maybe why even bother?
I think the only situation, I mean, the perfect situation, I think, for him is if the Avs want him. Because it's in Denver, it's Colorado. He can stay. That would be it's similar to what Billy Donovan did. Like Billy Donovan, the current coach of the Bulls, he was the coach in Florida for a number of years. They kept offering him jobs. He was going to go to Orlando, changed his mind, and then picked Oklahoma City. Like he got to pick the job he wanted. Yeah. I think Carle's in that situation. Like I don't think he would leave for the Blackhawks because, let's face it, the team's a mess. And he'd be brought in to lose a lot and try to fix a lot of things. I also read a few weeks back, and I think I mentioned it when we brought up Carle before, that he's really close with somebody in the Boston Bruins front office. I think he's really close with somebody there. I thought it was a former coach or someone who's still within the organization. So people were alluding to that maybe Boston would be a destination for him.
They could very well be looking for someone if after this year. I don't know if Joe Sacco will stick around or what that'll be, but you know, I don't know. I mean, if he wants an NHL job, he's going to get one. I mean, there's that. I mean, he's so hot right now. He's Hansel. You know, I think he's just an incredible NHL candidate. I don't know. The New York Rangers will probably be shopping for a coach too. I don't know if he'd want to jump into that. But I just I guess
are you going to have a first-time head coach with that group? They're an older group.
Well, they already tried that too with Dan Quinn. I think wasn't that his first NHL coaching job, and that didn't go so well.
Didn't Carle take over the Flyers, and he was a college coach.
Yeah, I mean the thing that I love about him is that like what he did with some of those World Junior kids. I mean, they're all, you know, superstars in their own right, and you know, I mean, a guy like Cole Iserman who, you know, is used to playing first line minutes with BU and is a big goal scorer, was their 13th forward. And he just kind of said, you're not going to play big minutes in tight games because you're going to be out there when we get scored on, and just made him kind of a power play specialist. And the kid embraced it, which is, I don't know. I think he's a pretty impressive coach. And, you know, so anyway, we'll see about David Carle. Well, Jimmy and I covered a number of things, guys, you know, over the last 40 minutes or so, but you know, now that you're here, is there anything else you want to talk about with the Hawks or the NHL for that matter? I mean, Eric's not here, so we could talk about how the Hudson brothers are taking hockey by storm, which they are. Sorry, Eric, but they are
the greatest hockey brothers in NHL history.
I think the Sedins would like a word, but
I don't know. I will say the Montreal Canadiens are really hot right now, and there's a rookie on their team that's been a big part of it. Just saying. What else you guys got? Anything?
Did you guys talk about Rockford trading for Matteo Petronero?
Yeah,
Oh,
let's talk about let's talk about Matteo.
Yeah. We broke it. Not that it was anything. Not that it was any big move or anything like that. It's a very low level move. Matteo Petronero was former Chicago Steel captain and defenseman. He was picked up by the Toronto Marlies a couple of years ago, and he's been kind of bouncing around there between their ECHL and their AHL affiliate. And the IceHogs, not the Blackhawks, the IceHogs acquired him over the weekend. He's a good he's a leader type guy, but he's kind of like a fringe player. I'm not gonna make him out to be anything more than he really is. He's a good dude, super, you love his game, but it is what it is. He might have a tough road with the IceHogs, but he's going to be some good depth as they're moving people up and down.
That's cool. Well,
yeah. And some people may remember his name from the Steels. So,
yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have ample opportunity to play because basically the same day as signing him, the IceHogs did trade away defenseman Austin Strand to the Comets. So it looks like they're giving him, a chance. They're moving a roster spot maybe to give him some playtime.
Yeah, he's a tough dude. He's a fan favorite, like leader type guy, but I don't know that he's going to give you anything like, crazy highlights or anything like that. You're not going to probably see him playing with Levshinov or anything.
Yeah.
You're probably going to see him in like, a 5-6 role, maybe kind of rotating in as a 7th defenseman, kind of probably at this point, but you know what? He's a good dude, and good for Rockford for bringing him in.
Well, playing pro hockey, kid. That's great stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's good. And I
Local
like him. He's a really
kid,
nice
pro.
guy.
That's
What
awesome.
was their big announcement that they teased on social media?
I haven't announced it yet. I'm wondering if, my guess it might be an outdoor game for the AHL. I don't think it was about Nazar making the AHL All-Star team because that came out shortly after those tweets, but I don't think they're related. So
no, because I thought they were still teasing it after that.
Yeah,
they're still teasing it by the looks of it.
Yeah.
And I just went to the Frozen Confines. I went to Friday's games. It was Ohio, Michigan, and then Notre Dame, Penn State, and that was a cool experience. Ohio State beat Michigan with scored the 4th goal with 30 seconds left to go in the 3rd period to win that game.
Yeah, that's cool.
Notre Dame won in a shootout against Penn State, who then Penn State upset Minnesota the next night in Minnesota and then beat Notre Dame on Sunday. So that was a cool experience. It was good, some good college hockey. Good. The Big Ten's got a juggernaut of teams.
Yeah, it's great hockey.
Michigan, Ohio State, and then some of their teams that aren't ranked as highly are still playing some pretty good hockey. So that was pretty cool to see.
Sean out there humble bragging.
I got to go to Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Hey, you could have froze your butt off too. Tickets were $15. I got mine. I got good seats. I was able to see. I didn't waste my money on the Winter Classic seats. So, it was a good all around experience. And they had Winter Classic stuff 50% off. So,
did you get any gear?
I got a 3/4 zip. A 3/4 zip with the Hawks logo, and it's nice and warm. And then my wife got a sweatshirt, half off. So she would have been rocking her Connor Bedard Winter Classic jersey that I got her for Christmas. That Eric said, I believe, wow, it pays to be Sean's wife. So he was a little jealous.
Did you say you pay your wife?
No. No.
How do you think he keeps it?
Oh, hey.
Yes.
What, you think she'd be with him without the money?
Now we're getting very unserious here on Andy.
Very
We're making him
unserious.
That'd be
uncomfortable.
fun, Peter.
Yeah.
Hey, what else?
Yeah. Well, tomorrow night, folks, Blackhawks are in Detroit.
Yeah.
In Detroit, which should be fun. Patrick Kane, recent hot streak. When he's still 36 years old, but as you all know, when he gets hot, look out, folks. So against the Hawks' stingy, airtight defense, hopefully he won't have a whole lot of opportunities. But the key is we want to see Bedard get that point streak into double digits here, 8-game point streak, which is awesome. A couple games ago, he's been playing great, but he's a bust, so who really cares anyway?
Yeah.
Isn't he
Media
2 points
personalities.
away from?
Why do we draft him? What's that, Jimmy?
Isn't he 2 points away from 100 career points?
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I believe if he
it's absurd.
somebody posed the question to me, I think if he finishes with 64 points this year, he will finish with the 8th all-time points for players under 20. 8th all time. But he's a bust.
Yeah, but he's a bust and he's not generational. And man, I wish we had Celebrini.
Celebrini would be 7th.
Well, anyway, folks, don't believe the haters out there. In Connor, we trust. The plan will happen, and he's playing great hockey. A good win last night, and let's.
Did you guys touch on last night?
We did.
Cavo, Kirby, or Colton Dock, and Frank Nazar line looked pretty good.
Sure did. Yeah, big night for those guys.
Yeah,
it was awesome. It was awesome, and hopefully we'll see more. I really hope that Nazar goal really just was the breakthrough he was looking for, and we'll see some more offense.
Yeah, Sorensen
Which would be fun.
he talked to him and he's like, just be patient. Like you're getting good shots on net. You're doing the right things, and hopefully you're just gonna break through. So hopefully that is his breakthrough.
Awesome. Hope so. Well, thanks for being here, folks. Thanks for dealing with me and Jimmy for the long haul, and Gate and Sean. Thanks for jumping on. Always good to see you. We'll be back next week, and hopefully the Hawks can string together a few more wins and make this a little bit more entertaining. And again, Bedard's point streak, keep an eye on that. That's been fun. So on behalf of the crew, have a good night, and we will see you all next week. Thanks, folks.
Congratulate your kids on a very nice hat.
Oh, yeah. This is a Christmas present. Love it.
Oh, crap. I don't have a hat. I'm the only hatless one here. What am I doing?
See you, folks.